Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells. It's the thick of training camp, 2 practices in the books, 3 coming today, but recruiting never stops. We got some decisions to talk about in the class of 2026. We also have some 2027s to look ahead to as coaches start to get their feet wet, get their feet settled with some of the top prospects in the upcoming class. But do you have a top 50 guy to talk about? Before we do, we got to talk about the 2025 Longhorns instead of the 2026 class. Go by our guy Paul Wadlington's Thinking Texas Football. His Longhorn football prospectus covers not just the 2025 recruiting class that is signed, sealed, and delivered, already has guys making an impact on campus, but also the landscape of college football, the SEC, Texas schedule, and every player on the roster from Arch Manning, who you see there, who is the cover athlete. Michael Taft, I think, is the insert athlete, all the way down to the Coleman brothers, who, not to say anything ill of them, but we can be honest, and you'll read in Paul's book that, you're not going to expect a lot from them this year. So go by Thinking Texas Football, the best preview there is out there for Longhorns football. Today, Justin, July was a decisions month. This is kind of a month where everything kind of slows down. All these prospects, whether they're committed, uncommitted, have a top 5, something like that, they have their own training camp to go through. They have school starting. They have all their visits done. I think it's a dead period anyway. So this is a time when recruiting kind of slows down, but still, we do have a decision to track, and that belongs to 2026 Corona, California, Oaks Christian cornerback Devon Benjamin. This is someone that Texas has been kind of involved in over the past couple months, competing with other West Coast schools like Oregon, and then other schools that mine the West Coast, like Michigan, Washington, and North Carolina sneaking in there as well. As you can see, number 43 in the Rivals industry ranking, makes his announcement tomorrow. Texas has done well in this recruitment, but I think the right way to say it is Texas has seen other schools do better.
Yeah, this is a guy that, one of the top prospects in the country, Rivals #1 corner. Hey, Sark goes big game hunting, and this is one of those kids. Like they got his attention early. They brought him in for an official in June. Like they really like Devin Benjamin. If they didn't already have 2 corners in this cycle, I think they push all their chips to the center of the table for this kid. But they already did really well with Samari Matthews and Haywood Howard Jr., and so I think that's why this thing looks and trends Oregon right now. Look, when he dropped his top 5, I'm surprised 2 schools that were early in his recruitment weren't even on the list, in Ohio State and USC. Those were 2 that were the names we were hearing the most, 9 months ago when it comes to Benjamin. But I think Oregon's kind of rallied the troops. They look like they're going to have a pretty good – they've got some momentum right now, the Ducks. They just landed Anthony Jones. They're in a great position with Benjamin and a couple other guys. It's funny because, like you said, this is when recruiting kind of slows down. I can remember in April and May and June asking guys, when are you going to make your decision? And a lot of them would say August. I want to do it right before my senior year. Well, a lot of those got pushed forward or pushed up to July, which usually it would have been in August. But like you said, they've got camps. They got stuff they want to focus on. Kids are starting to whittle down these things a lot sooner and a lot quicker. They want to get their spots. Davin Benjamin's no different. Texas shot their shot here. I just think the Oregon Ducks are the team to beat.
As we think about defensive back in this class, we know that Haywood Howard is committed. We know that Samari Matthews is also committed. Those 2 guys kind of fit into the cornerback role. Yaheem Riley, he goes to Austin Anderson. He fits a little bit more into the safety role. They've missed on some guys. I know Jalen Lott was eventually recruited as a wide receiver by Texas, but they really liked what he offered possibly as a defensive back. There are a handful of other guys that, Texas did not win out for in the end. And it seems like there's only one real position. Yeah, they would have liked a third cornerback, but there's really only one position where they have some work to do in some form or fashion as the 2026 cycle continues.
Yeah, this class needs a safety. That's really what they need because, look, Riley can play safety, but, he's also talking to Coach Hudson about playing some nickel. And so they need a classic safety. Now, how do they have to have one in this cycle? Not necessarily. If you look at the roster, they have a ton of safeties, especially some really some young ones back there. They're obviously going to be losing Michael Taff and potentially maybe one or two other ones. But, man, there's just so much youth back there, so much talent. You don't want to skip a cycle per se, but Sark's not going to take a guy just to take a guy. This feels like a position where we're going to see maybe a late senior eval, or Texas goes after one of the more national guys later to potentially flip them, because that's kind of what Sark does in November and December. This cycle needs another safety. It could really use one. It doesn't necessarily have to have one. Yaheem Riley can do a little bit of both, but Benjamin was just going to be house money at this point for Texas, and they would have been really lucky if he jumped in. But, yeah, they're going to need another safety. They're going to keep hunting. They're going to keep looking. It's not something they direly need, but it's not like offensive tackle. They have got to flip an offensive tackle or two at that matter. It's not like that. But safety is something that they're paying attention to, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dwayne Akeen is being a little more thorough once the season starts and senior seasons begin.
One of the things that I did over the course of the past few weeks is trying to figure out maybe what could be next at safety is if you're Texas, you can look at some of these Big 12 schools. And I think it's fair to understand that Texas-based Big 12 schools, they got money, and they don't want the ding to their pride of losing a prospect to Texas. But at the same time, there are kids who understand what the difference between the SEC and the Big 12 is. So maybe we'll look and see some interaction between Mark Orfe, Dwayne Akina, Kenodo Hudson, and some players who are committed maybe to Big 12 schools or Houston DFW kids who are committed out of state. Maybe want to see if they want to have an opportunity to play closer to home. That's always one thing Texas feels like it can do. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. NIL is a new factor in that. And of course, there is always a late riser, and maybe Texas has to compete with some other schools, but there are some other schools that are just completely full right now. So we'll see what the competition looks like, and maybe that bodes well for Texas.
And also understand, Texas didn't go into this position blindly. Okay, it kind of looks like that, but they had a lot of eggs in the Chase Calicut basket. That was their main target, their main guy for a long time. And obviously he committed to Georgia, and he's dealing with his own things right now. So Texas wasn't unprepared for this position. It just so happened things happen. Stuff happens. And the safety they had pinpointed for the longest time winds up, he gave a silent to Texas, winds up committing to Georgia, and we've kind of seen everything go there. So they weren't unprepared. They just know they're going to have to keep working and keep fighting. They're going to find somebody. They always do. And that's kind of the fun part of our job is we get to kind of try to help out in that regard and see who we see. But, Yaheem Riley in a pinch, he can play back there. But, yeah, they're going to need to add one more guy. They weren't unprepared in this cycle. They just sometimes that's what happens with prospects.
And when you're breaking in new assistant coaches, even when you are Dwayne Akina, there are assistants that have had 2-3 year relationships. Dwayne Akina and Mark Orfe, despite living in Texas for 45 years combined or something like that, they don't have the same relationships as Texas coaches with these prospects as others do. So there's some work to do on that front. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor, that is Luxe Kitchen and Bath.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
We got a couple of 2027s to talk about. That's kind of where things are trending. These are the names to know, and then the junior film to watch over the course of the season. We'll start in Arizona. Noah Roberts, a running back from Chandler, Arizona, attends Basha High School, 6'1", 190. Everybody calls him around the top 50 prospect, number one player in Arizona. And, we've seen Bijan Robinson. We've seen Christian Clark. Texas maybe wants to make it. We'll see Noah Roberts.
Yeah, you kind of you took my opening one-liner. So Sark's kind of raising Arizona in a sense. He has no problem going into that state and finding what they did. Obviously, Herman found Bijan, but Bijan. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I knew that too, but
I did too.
It's just such a bad, or not a bad habit, but a habit, and also he didn't mind. But yeah,
right. But when Bijan Robinson came out of Arizona, I think that pretty much put that everyone's eyes on that state. Noah Roberts is no different. This is a nice sized kid, 6'1", about 190, 195, number 5 running back in the country. This is a guy that Chad Scott had gotten to know over the last probably 6 to 9 months. I think they offered him earlier this year. They've kind of built out that relationship, but like you said, they've had some success there with previous running backs. Why not go back? This is a 2 running back cycle, I'm told, in 2027. They definitely want to in this regard. Noah Roberts is going to be one of those guys on that board. And a couple other guys to know in 2027. Elijah Kimball out of New York. He's a kid that Texas is high on, especially Chad Scott. And also Cadius McMiller, a running back out of Tyler High here in East Texas. He is another one. He's a big back that Texas really likes. And so they're going to go for 2 running backs in this cycle following up the Derek Cooper commitment. Noah Roberts is he's got some good stuff there.
Always going to be fun to track. We'll keep it moving real quick with our last guy. That is Caden Fife, a 2027 defensive lineman from Chattooga, Georgia. And I had to look that up. Why is it just not Chattanooga? It's not far from Chattanooga. It's about 1 county away, I think. Maybe I don't know my map. It's right by Chattanooga. And this is prime Kenny Baker territory. This is where he's from, that little tri-state area right around Chattanooga, where it's Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. This is where Kenny Baker grew up. It's where he coached in a significant portion of his career. And Texas is already after one of the best prospects from that area out of Northwest Georgia.
Yeah, so our good buddy Chad Simmons was on the road a little bit this week and came across Caden and look, Caden's one of those guys. I think he's going to be a late bloomer on a national scale. He's in the top like 20, 25 when it comes to D linemen. Rivals has him a little bit higher, almost in the top 10. I think he's number 11. You're talking about a kid that's 6'5", 290 pounds. He's got great tape, and I think we understand Texas' goal, and that's to hunt and mine defensive linemen in that region. That is Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and of course the state of Texas. But man, they're taking on this SEC thing seriously. They're recruiting that region just like anybody else. Fife is one. He's expected to be into Austin sometime this season for a game. He'll be in for a Saturday this fall. Same thing with Noah Roberts. And that's kind of what you need to understand with 2027s. Keep checking us out at InsideTexas.com because we're kind of introducing you to more and more of these guys to know. Look, we didn't realize the 26 class was going to be so closed on August 1st, but that's kind of the trend right now. And so we want to make sure we update you on you guys like Kennedy Brown and Jalen Brewster and John Meredith. Hey, there's more to that class. Please check it out at InsideTexas.com. Noah Roberts is one. Noah Fife is another. There's a lot of good D linemen in the state this year. So I'd like to see Texas stay in state for at least 1 or 2 of those guys. I could see the number being potentially 3. It really depends on how these transfer portal D linemen, how much eligibility they have, and if they wind up sticking around, what that number becomes. But Caden Fife is a name to know. Texas has no problem going into Georgia's backyard, Tennessee's backyard, and Alabama's backyard to look for a future defensive tackle.
Should be a lot of fun to track. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, we've got a lot of training camp intel on this channel. We'll have more over the course of the next few days. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Go to InsideTexas.com. We've got a link in the description. And, of course, buy our guy Paul Wadlington, Stinking Texas Football, the best preview out there. Every player, position, game on the schedule, SEC team, a look at the college football landscape, and a look at some 2025 class members who are already making some early contributions, which, hey, if you're a recruit and you see you can play right away, that's good news with maybe how you view that school. So, Justin, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Recruiting Scoop, the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel.